The NFL Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting research platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit HOFBets.com. Use SGPN, promo code SGPN, get 50% off your first month and start making smarter bets today. We're also brought to you by the SGPN app. The SGPN app is completely free to download and home of all your favorite SGPN podcasts, contests, and picks. Just type in SGPN in your app store today and download America's #1 DGen app. Yes, sir. We are back with another edition of the NFL Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. No meaning the voice of the guy. It's me, really real, villain route, Terrell Furman Jr. here at your service. And I don't have the where is it? I don't. There we go. And we are back. We are back. Another Thursday preview. Another ugly game. We got Mark in the chat going, already kicking the chat off. Mark, what's going on? Scott Studio Right Show with me. Scott, what's going on? Wait a second. There we go.
Scotty, beat me up.
Surprise.
Yeah, doing pretty well. I can't say that I'm looking forward to this game, but I'm looking forward to breaking down this game to make some money. But we actually had a decent game last week. It looked really bad on paper, but it turned out the Steelers and Patriots game was watchable, which was something I didn't expect to say. So hopefully this is a similar game that looks really bad on paper, but turns out to be competitive.
And imagine the amount of people like myself that was tuned in, kind of tuned out, tuned into the in-season tournament over there on the NBA side. And then the game, I mean, points were scored in bunches. The under, no chance, no shot. I mean, who would have thought Bailey Zappi go out there and try to put on a Hall of Fame performance, get a win for the New England Patriots?
The under in a teaser.
All right.
That wasn't even close. So it wasn't good.
Oh, the teaser didn't even go. Yeah, it was an ugly L. And I mean, I would like to say there's potential for that to happen this game. I mean, it could happen. This could be one of those games where it's like everybody, just like last week, everybody thinks it's an auto under because both of these two teams are really, really bad. And it could be interesting because there's playmakers on both sides of the ball, just not at quarterback. Because this week we have my nemesis, Brandon Staley, and the Los Angeles Chargers against the Las Vegas Raiders and Antonio Pierce, former New York Giant, Antonio Pierce, Super Bowl champion. Antonio Pierce squad is laying 3 at home. Line opened up at 2.5. There are now Raiders -3, and the big news is because Justin Herbert surgery on his thumb, I think it is, on his thumb. So yeah, he's done for the year. So you have Brandon Staley going to be starting Eason Stick. I feel like you know, Scott, but let's just do the trivia anyway so that the people at home could play. What college did Eason Stick go to?
North Dakota State.
Very much so. Along with Carson Wentz. I actually think he was the predecessor. Not predecessor.
No, he was right after.
The successor, yes.
Yeah, I think the order was Wentz, then Stick, and then you had basically Trey Lance for about 3 games. And now they're using Cam Miller, I think is their quarterback now. But yeah.
So that's really the big thing on the injury front. You're not getting any Justin Herbert in this game. I mean, I don't have to handicap this at all. Staley's going to blow this, right?
I assume so.
I think the only fear is that Staley blows this and still covers 3.
Yeah, the real concern is that the Raiders last week scored 0 points and lost 3-0, and now they're laying 3 points. That's kind of the problem you run into. I am going to give the Raiders some props, though. It's mostly for Pierce because the season's been over for them for about 2-3 months at this point. They play hard. They're not talented, but they play hard. And I feel like you make an argument that a lot of teams, whether it's Washington, whether it's the Chargers, for example, some teams might have already quit on their coaches at this point in the season or quit on the year. The Raiders are not one of those teams. If they're losing games, it's because they're not that talented. But it's not because of a lack of heart or a lack of effort. This team tries. The issue is O'Connell's not any good, which I feel like is a pretty obvious conclusion. But I don't know if Stick's any good either. So the Raiders laying 3 is dicey because O'Connell isn't good at all. But then again, do you want to take 3 with the Chargers, who get torched every week? Defensively, they're a mess, and now using a backup quarterback. So it's kind of a tricky spot. It feels like a preseason game with backup quarterbacks.
Yeah, it does feel like a preseason game. It does. But I think the thing that has me out on the Chargers, and can you hear the dogs in the background? Oh my god.
I can, but I thought it added, maybe it was symbolic that you're going to take the Chargers, like the dogs are barking kind of thing, but I don't think.
Oh, like the dogs are barking? Yeah, no, they're barking to remind me that I'm never going to take the Chargers. Like, I mean, Staley's just untrustable. And now the only person that I felt was really saving his job for as long as it was, and Justin Herbert is not playing this game. And I just keep going back to that New England game where it felt like he did everything he could to lose that game, and New England couldn't put up points.
It was basically the same game the Raiders had last week, except the Chargers won that game and the Raiders lost their game. But it was basically the same game, except New England is a lot worse than Minnesota is.
Yeah. Which means I got to take the Raiders -3 here.
I think I do as well. I think I have to. By the way, we forgot to play one important. I forgot to do something quickly, which I'll do.
Oh now. Yeah. This is 100% a toilet game, and which is crazy because we're ignoring the rule of taking the points in the toilet bowl game, but that doesn't apply to Brandon Staley. I'm sorry.
It's football too. It's usually a basketball thing that we apply that to.
Yeah.
But the Raiders, once again, I know for a fact they're going to bring it effort-wise in this game. The Chargers, I can't say the same because they kind of got buried by the Broncos even when Herbert was healthy in that game. They were never in it by any means. Now, Stick made a couple of throws in the second half, mostly to Johnston, who got loose a couple of times. But for the most part, they really didn't threaten at all in that game. I know what O'Connell is. I still don't know what Stick is. But you can argue that maybe Stick in his first start, nerves might get the better of him. O'Connell's not good, but at least he's been there before because he's been starting for about a month. I'm going to lean Raiders as well. I'm assuming you like the under in this game, or you're expecting this game to be a sneaky over game? Because 34 is a really low total. Like, that's a very low total.
2 weeks ago, it was 6-0 Chargers. Last week, it was 3-0. Raiders lost to the Vikings. I can't take an over. Like, I can't ignore that stuff and take it over. So it's clear under here for me. All right, before we get into our first touchdown bets, gotta talk to you about PrizePicks because you can go and get your reboot bonus with the injury insurance on PrizePicks, only fantasy platform that's doing that, where if a player gets hurt in the first half, you can definitely get that void that you're looking for if they don't return in the second half. Derrick Jones Jr. he got hurt in that first half. I think he rolled his ankle in that first half against who did the Mavs play last night? Who
were they playing last night? They played
the Pelicans. No. I thought
the Timberwolves played the Pelicans. They played the Grizzlies last night.
Grizzlies, that's what it was. It was the Grizzlies. Yes, Terrell Jones Jr. rolled his ankle first half against the Grizzlies. Didn't come back the second half. Guess what? Rebooted. Don't got to worry about taking an L on if you had a more prop because they've rebooted them. You are able to keep your contest going. Make sure you tap into prizepicks.com/SGPN to get a 100% deposit match up to $100. That is prizepicks.com. Promo code SGPN. PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy. And we're giving out a PrizePicks lineup at the end of the show. So, all right, let's go ahead on to first touchdown bets. Who was first touchdown last week?
It was boring. I thought it was Elliott.
Yeah.
Elliott scored like 5 minutes into the game, so it was kind of a waste.
Yeah, no. I mean, we weren't ever going to get that. That's too chalk. All right. Over to you. It's your turn for first touchdown. Hopefully we get the juices going.
Yeah, so in a game that's this disgusting, I decided to go with a couple of long shots because I felt like there was no value once again, especially in this case with 2 quarterbacks you can't trust. There's no way in hell I'm going to be taking a player that is going to be below 1,000, but I actually went above that. I went to the cheapest guy being plus 2,000, actually. I took Quinn Johnston, who I know has gotten a really bad reputation for dropping passes over the course of his young career. But plus 2,000 is a good price for a guy that actually had some chemistry with Stick. in the brief amount that Stick played last week. Johnson, if I
Mhm.
remember, caught that bomb for like 40, 50 yards. And it did seem like Stick trusted him. And Johnson did make some catches in that game where the drops were an issue maybe in weeks past, but at least in the short term, he's improved, I guess, in that area. But I do think looking at this overall spot, Johnson at plus 2,000, I think it's a pretty good, I don't want to say buy low spot, but for a guy who I think has been kind of written off by a lot of people already, but he's kind of underrated now in a
Mhm.
way, especially with the amount of usage he gets with this team. I think it's a good value
Mhm.
play at plus 2,000 for receivers on the field a lot.
All right, plus 2,000, Quentin Johnston. No, I like that play. I like that play. Uh, anything else you got? I'm just let you
Yeah, yeah,
rattle off
I
the
have
Raiders.
4. I'm assuming we're going to take both defenses. Do we agree on
Yeah,
that?
yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
so
I have them both.
yeah, didn't have a choice. I took the special teams too, so I got plus 3,000 for the Chargers and plus
Mhm.
3,500 for the Raiders. Besides that, though, I did take Michael Meyer at plus 2,200 for the Raiders in that one. Chargers have not been great against tight ends recently. We saw Troutman
Mhm.
catch a touchdown last week. Chargers have allowed 4 touchdowns to opposing tight ends. Meyer was on the field quietly for about 94% of the snaps last week, so he's on the field a ton. I'm not saying he's had a great year by any means, but I do think that the Chargers defense is definitely a flawed unit, and they have not been great against tight ends. So give me
Mhm.
Meyer at plus 2,200. So once again, my 4, Quinn Johnson plus 2,000, Meyer plus 2,200, Chargers defense and special teams plus 3,000, and Raiders defense special teams at plus 3,500.
All right. I like that. I like that. Let's see here. So yeah, I have both defenses for my first touchdown. I am also going to go with this feels like I've been trying to sell myself on a 50 to 1 long shot all day, Scott. All day. I think I'm going to do it just out of principle because if this hits, I'm going to be pissed that I wasn't a part of it. But
Austin Hooper, who are you picking?
I can truly admit that there's a very, very low chance of this hitting. But DeAndre Carter is a former Los Angeles Charger here. He knows this team. He knows the defense. He doesn't get many snaps though. He got 2 snaps last week, and he hasn't gotten that many snaps all year. So, but if I sit here and I'm talking about Aiden O'Connell and what makes Aiden O'Connell comfortable, and the long shot opportunity of a DeAndre Carter or something like that. So this, I don't even know if I really want to count this as a first touchdown score, but DeAndre Carter in a revenge game, it just feels like an opportunity where, hey man, they could pull him out on there. He could have a go route and get behind the defense, and it could be something that Aiden O'Connell is just like, oh, this is way too easy, and they're not even looking towards him. So DeAndre Carter, why not? The former Los Angeles Charger, 50 to 1. But I have 5 actually. That's crazy because
I was
I
gonna I was
because
gonna
I
ask
had
if that was
one.
one of your 4, if you were throwing in a bonus one for
And
a
he's a
revenge game.
bonus. He's a
Okay.
bonus. The other 2, I'm going with the quarterbacks because I don't trust either one of them in the red zone. So I think if they get in close, why not just run in yourself? They're both relatively mobile. I don't think that they're lawn chairs out there. And I think that if they get into the 2-3 yard line and it's open, they're gonna take it. So I took both quarterbacks as well as both defenses. Aiden O'Connell at 30 to 1 and Easton Stick at 35 to 1.
Okay.
Very, very easy simple first touchdown handicap for me this week. All
It's
right.
the standard ugly game first touchdown handicap. Take the quarterbacks and you take the defenses.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much. All right, Scott. Player props. I'm gonna kick it over to you for your first one. What you doing?
All right, so I am going to admit that the options were a bit limited because Jacobs is questionable, and there are some
Mm-hmm.
other There are some other players that have not really had lines up. For example, Quinn Johnson had no lines. I don't know why, but either
Mm-hmm.
way, I could not take him. So anyway, to go through the props that I did find, first one's going to be Devontae Adams. I'm going to take his longest reception over 22.5 yards at minus 110. Even in that
Mm.
disgusting game against the Vikings last week, he went over. He's actually gone over this number in 4 straight games, and he's gone over this number in 2 of his last 3 games against the Chargers. So the Chargers get burned by that Cortland Sutton touchdown. Their secondary is not great by any means. Adams is going to still be a serious threat with this offense, especially against this bad secondary. So 22.5, I think he gets loose at least once. We've seen the Chargers blowing coverages all year long. I think Adams is on the receiving end of what can be a very bad blown coverage or maybe just beats his defender one-on-one at the line of scrimmage. Give me Adams' longest reception at 22.5 yards at -110.
All right. And I'm going to go with, for my first one, give me Austin Eckler receiving yards over 26.5 here. And it's really just the fact of Easton Stick is coming in here, and he's basically going to be like a deer in headlights with a potential of Max Crosby in this front four of the Las Vegas Raiders that can get pressure with just rushing forward. Like they've shown over the course of the year that they can get pressure just rushing forward. And so I think that Easton Stick's going to be kind of like a deer in headlights a little bit. And who's the check down option? It's Austin Eckler. I think Austin Eckler is going to have a really good day. Maybe 6-7 catches, something like that. I considered his receptions as well, kind of settled in on the receiving yards, but I think Austin, and because I couldn't get his receptions, well, I didn't find his receptions prop, so settled in on the receiving yards there. 26.5, -120, Austin Eckler. I think this is a good opportunity for him with the quarterback and this pass rush of Easton Stick just dumping the ball off to him 6-7 times this game.
Yeah, it makes sense. Stick was okay in limited action, but it's different when you're getting your first career start. He might be extremely nervous for that spot.
Yeah. All right. Number 2, what you doing?
All right. So my second one is going to be on Michael Mayer, who I mentioned before for first touchdown score. His yards are at 18.5, and I know that he has not done a great job at receiving yards recently, but the volume in terms of snap count is there. He played 94% of the snaps last week. The Chargers have not been good against tight ends and yards as well, at least for this number. They've allowed at least 19 yards to starting tight ends in 9 of the last 10 games. So they've really been brutal at guarding the tight end position. Meyer, we saw him in Notre Dame, solid receiving option when he has the opportunities, but I do think 18.5 for a starting tight end against a defense that's been vulnerable against tight ends and for a guy who's on the field all the time is too low of a number. Give me Meyer over 18.5 receiving yards at -114.
All right. I like that. I took Devontae Adams receptions for plus money.
Okay. I took Long's reception, but I did see that too. That was like plus 106, I think.
I got it for plus 114.
I did, okay.
I mean, it's Devontae Adams, and regardless of what you think about Aiden O'Connell, Devontae Adams gets open. And I think Aiden O'Connell was good enough to hit and open Devontae Adams. We're talking about a player's coach here, and Antonio Pierce. He knows that, look, we got to get the ball to our playmakers if we're going to have a chance to win the game. Like, we're trying to still win games here. We're still being competitive. We have a chance with this rival of the Los Angeles Chargers. Let's go ahead and let's get the ball to our playmaker as many times as we can. And so, yeah, 6.5 always has been a lot for receptions, but plus money for Devontae Adams over his receptions, I'm probably going to take that every time because he's so good and he continuously gets open. He's almost open every single play. So
I'm not a great secondary, so that helps.
Yeah.
But for my last play, I didn't have many options. I thought about an interception prop. Unfortunately, the minus prices were too high, so I couldn't do it. I found a defensive prop because I didn't see kicker props available either. So I had to go with a defensive prop. I'm going to go with Chargers linebacker Tuli. I'm going to butcher this. Tui Pelotu. I believe I did that right. I'm going to take Tui Pelotu under a quarter of a sack at -145. I don't really understand the price here. He's had 0 sacks in 5 straight games. He's had 0 sacks in 9 of his last 10 games, and it's -145. I don't really understand this, but I'm going to take it. Give me Tui Pelotu under a quarter of a sack at -145.
Shout out to Jacob Fuck Off Cut in the chat. Hi, how's it going, Jacob? How are you doing today? Appreciate you for tapping in with us. Easton Stick, I did take the interception prop, by the way. Easton Stick over half an interception.
-145, I think.
-145.
Yeah.
So I laid the juice with it. And I don't. This Raiders secondary has quietly been a pretty solid unit all year.
Yeah, Pierce has rebuilt the entire defense into being a respectable unit week in, week out. Reminder, they only gave up 20 to Miami. They're a solid unit.
Yeah, and so I think that that's where the turnovers are gonna come in. It's gonna be the pass rush getting home. It's gonna be Easton Stick, inability to make a decision, trying to force a window that he probably doesn't need to force, and it's an innocent interception. Like it kind of feels like lockstep. Hey, Easton Stick's probably gonna throw a pick in this game. He could have a solid game and still throw an interception. So yeah, give me over half an interception at -145.
And that was your third prop, right?
Yep, that was the last
Okay, cool.
one.
Yeah.
So we're about to get into DFS. DFS. For this very, very ugly game. And I can't wait to hear who you're putting in the lineup this time around. All right. But before we do that, got to talk about Hall of Fame Bets. Hall of Fame Bets is sports betting analytics platform, parlays, player props, and game lines. Research everything from NFL, NBA, soccer, historical stats and data, and enter a parlay idea into the revolutionary parlay optimizer tool. I'm telling you, this parlay optimizer tool is what you need to help increase the hit rate of your parlays. Stop betting in the dark and join over 30,000 users researching with Hall of Fame Bets. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit HOFBets.com. Use code SGPN for 50% off your first month and start winning today. All right, Scott, kicking it over to you for DFS first. You know, you do your DFS on FanDuel. I do my DFS on DraftKings for all of those that are new to this. So he'll have one less player than me, different prices. Scott, what are you doing for first? I mean, not first, excuse me, for DFS today.
Yeah, so my MVP is going to be Devontae Adams. I'm not really going to overthink this one. We both think Adams has a good game. You have the receptions. I have the longest reception. But I have questions about the Chargers secondary. We saw Sutton burn this defense last week. And I do think O'Connell's not great, but I think he's good enough to find Adams open a couple of times in this game, maybe for 100 yards and a touchdown. So I do think that Adams is in line for a pretty good game there. So he's going to be my MVP or my captain spot. Then it got a little bit interesting because I thought about taking the defenses. I decided not to because I don't know why. I just felt like it was going to be a pretty popular play, and I decided to be a little bit different.
Wow.
I didn't take kickers either. So I went fully. I feel like it's a decent spot.
What game are you watching?
I know. I felt. Oh, which game am I watching now?
Yeah, you're clearly watching a game.
In the background. I had hockey on in the background. But I got Adams as my MVP or my captain spot. And then I decided to stick with the offenses because I feel like it's going to be a pretty, I'd say, uncommon approach to this overall matchup, taking the quarterbacks and some receivers. So I actually have Adams. I have Quentin Johnston, who I mentioned before. Kind of the same logic as Adams, less volume, but I can see a world where he burns somebody and maybe catches a 50-yard bomb for a touchdown. I have the quarterbacks. I have O'Connell and Stick, who I think nobody's going to want to play. So it might be a rare, like, low roster spot, low ownership argument in favor of the quarterbacks. And I got Michael Mayer because I think that he's in line to catch a touchdown against the Chargers. So, yeah, I took Adams, Johnston, both quarterbacks, and Mayer as my offensive-heavy approach in a very ugly game. I feel like it's a decent contrarian option.
No, I like it. I'm not mad at you. I like it. All right. I faded the heck out of the Chargers on this, man.
That's fair.
I faded. I have one Charger, and that's Austin Eckler, and he's not even in the captain slot. I faded the Chargers here.
Did we have the same captain? I could see you having Adams in there.
Yes, I 100% had Devontae Adams. I mean, come on, man. I'm taking the best player on the field. It doesn't matter. But because I took Adams, I had to take O'Connell too. I really didn't want to put O'Connell in there.
That's the same reason why I took O'Connell and why I took Stick, because I had Johnson in there too. And I'm like, all right, I'm picking the long touchdown catch or blown coverage argument. So I'm taking the quarterbacks.
Yeah. So Eckler for the receptions, O'Connell and Adams for the stack. I did take that Raiders defense because, man, I just don't know. Like, come on, 2 weeks ago they scored 6 points with Justin Herbert, and now Easton Stick is in there. Like, and this is a respectable Chargers defense now. I really don't know how they're going to be able to move the ball. So give me the Raiders and the kicker Daniel Carlson, just because as much faith as I am giving Aiden O'Connell and Devontae Adams, I have zero faith in them in red zone. I could see this as a situation where it's like, who was it that just had freaking 22, 23 plus points? Sanders for Miami. I think that was what it was. It was somebody that just had a crazy game as a kicker. So I added Daniel Carlson, and then you sold me on Mayer, so I added Mayer as my last one.
Yeah.
All right. Man, Scott, we be rolling with these now. Like we
are when the games are really bad because we don't have time to like fully discuss alternative
or disagree because it's so.
Yeah. Game's just bad. I mean, we're trying our best over here.
All right, let's go ahead, lock in anytime touchdown, and let's close this out for my lock. Easton sticks. I cashed that interception prop from Trubisky last time around. I'm gonna go back to it. Give me stick minus 145 for an interception. Like it's gonna happen. I'm almost positive it's gonna happen. So you know what? I'm not even gonna just think about it. I'm gonna take the free money. I'm gonna lay a little bit of juice. This Raiders defense is better. The front four can get pressure. I think he's going to be running for his life this entire time. And he's going to do what all young quarterbacks that feel like they have to do is try to fit it in a short window to try to win his team the game. And he's going to make a mistake. So I'll probably cash this in the first half. I'll take Easton stick over half an interception at minus 145 for my touchdown scorer. See, you know, I really, really wanted to go contrarian, give out some big money number, and you've been rolling the Michael Mayer train, so you might do that for us. I'm not thinking twice. Devontae Adams is plus 150. If Devontae Adams is plus 150 to score a touchdown, I'm probably going to take it every single time.
Yeah, so I am going to take Meyer, but I'll save that for in a second. For my lock, I am going to go with Adams, though. I am going to take his longest reception over 22.5. Once again, 4 straight, done in 2 out of 3 against the Chargers. The secondary is not any good. We're both picking Adams to have a big game. So give me the longest reception over 22.5 at minus 110 as my lock. For my dog, you might remember last week I gave out Hunter Henry at about 6-1. It was the only play I won on the show, but it saved my ass. But the point is the tight ends at big prices have done me quite well recently. I'm going to stick with that. Give me Meyer touchdown anytime at plus 550. I think it's a good price for a guy who's on the field all the time. We saw this cash last week with Troutman scoring against the same exact Chargers defense. Give me a play action pass to Meyer. I like it at plus 550.
All right. Is this the week, Scott? Is this the week we just clean house because it's an ugly game and we really didn't like anything?
It could be. I was cleaning house the last couple weeks, and last week not so much. But once again, Henry bailed me out, or Hunter Henry bailed me out because he had those 2 touchdowns. So yeah, hopefully we both sweep. But once again, I'm probably not going to watch this game. Full disclosure.
All right.
So,
all right. Let's see here. I have anything else for the people before we get up out of here?
No, not really. We'll be back once again in about a day or two to go through the afternoon games for Sunday. If you think this game's bad, you think it's going to get better, I got some bad news for you. There's a lot of really bad games on Sunday's card. But I do look forward to breaking those games down with you. Of course, we'll be back once again on the NBA show tomorrow to break down the Wednesday card. But no, nothing more to add. You?
No. Other than that, I mean, for the 3 people that are watching with us, shout out to my guy Mark keeping the chat lit by himself. Shout out to you. Jokic got ejected. I didn't
he got ejected. I gave out his triple-double, and he got ejected with a minute to go in the second quarter. So,
dang.
Yeah. It seemed like a pretty soft ejection from the replays that I saw. So, not
it couldn't have been worse than Trae Young last night. Oh, my God, bro.
To be fair, Trae complaining about any calls is... He should get fined for complaining about any call because every call he gets is a gift. But
I don't know, man. He got slapped in the face.
No, he did. It was a foul. I'm just saying, for a guy who foul baits all the time, I don't feel bad.
Yeah, no. I feel it. I feel it. All right. So, for the 3 people watching us live, make sure you like the video on your way out. For anybody that comes through YouTube afterwards, make sure you like the video before you go. Leave a comment as well. And for everybody that's listening through their ears, wherever you get your podcast, make sure you leave us a 5-star rating and review. Other than that, I have nothing else to say, nothing else to do. No other way of ending the podcast. Just going to end it like this. We are out of here.